What's going on, everybody? This is Future Automation, a place where imagination meets reality, and you're listening to Tejas. Welcome to another podcast of Weekend Talks. And today we are going to have an awesome podcast on robotics as a service, tEChBots Tales with Jessica. Welcome, Jessica, to the show. And it's really a great honor to have you finally on the podcast. And after a long conversation and a lot of back and forth, we are here. So, welcome to the show. And yeah, it's good to have you here and with this awesome conversation. So I'd like to have a brief, for the viewers, it would be great if you give a little bit of an introduction of you about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure being in this podcast. I really love what you're doing and I really appreciate the invite.
Thank you.
So, everybody, this is Jessica. I'm Jessica Chavez. I'm original from Mexico but moved to the United States more than 10 years ago. And well, I have a background as an industrial engineer. It was an interesting path how I ended up being an engineer. First of all, because I didn't have any role models around me, and no woman that has been doing engineering around me. So, first of all, I love being an engineer. And then during that path, I started working with a lot of tech companies, of course, including robotics and a lot of software companies as well. Well, I enjoy a lot the technical aspect, of course, as a curious engineer. I have to admit that at a very early age, I developed a lot of skills with people. And that also helped to start growing my career mostly in across customer experience, customer success, and developing business for companies, because it was very easily for me to mix what is my technical background and my curiosity, but also my skills with people. So I'm doing my MBA right now, and I have been working, as a fractional customer success for a lot of robotics companies lately. I found the Latina success, which it was also bringing awareness of all what is about customer success. But one of the biggest things also I wanted to do is helping bringing more diversity in tech, Latinos into robotics. I still feel that Latinos need more role models to look at. And well, I'm also enjoying my journey working with DocuTown, which is a big company and platform helping also with the diversity in education in robotics. So well, that is a little overview of me, but I involve in too many things. I'm also board member of climatic robotics. I think that is another big topic, that is how robotics are helping with the climatic change. And I everything that is related to diversity, robotics, and technology, it is my passion. And well, I hope your audience can, have some good experience from this conversation from me.
Of course, of course. I think it's really great that expertise from your end are being shared with us, because I have been waiting for a good robotic podcast from a very long time, and I was lucky enough to find you and have this conversation. So, yeah, it's really good to hear from you how your journey has gone through, from where you are moving and you are meeting new people. I've seen your recent LinkedIn post also. I think you have met someone from a robotics company. We'll have a discussion about that, I think, if possible, in this podcast. If not, um, I'll have a talk with you about that as well. I'm really interested. But yeah, robotics is a domain that I think has been changing, evolving from a very long time. And that's one thing that I think is something that you can share about. So can you give us an overview about how robotics has evolved in industry over these years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, robotics started many years ago, right? And primarily start in the manufacturing industry in automotive. I think it's when we start seeing in companies like Ford, and of course in Japan and China, they start doing a lot of automation in their process. We see the conveyors, we see parts of how to create more efficient systems. Right now, we see that robots are even in our houses, right? I have a few Roombas that help me during the day. and keep me free of cleaning my house for a few hours. Um, and definitely I see that robotics is evolving. Yesterday I have the pleasure to be listening about one robotic that is helping with emotions. This company is called Companion, and it was super cool to see this robot that doesn't look like robot at all. That's the first thing. So I see robotics is gonna be in our lives, and it's gonna keep evolving and helping not only with tasks, but probably we are gonna see more than, like doing the repetitive tasks that they have been doing. Probably they are gonna be further than that.
Great, great. I think robotics has been picked up like a trend in few years, but it has been going, as you said, from ages. And every industry that started had some or the other kind of robots. Now they have reached to now in our household purposes. So that's why it has become a trend and a kind of a buzzword. But and also it has been evolving, that's for sure. So what do you think are some of the milestones in the history of industrial robotics?
Well, I would say for me, since I'm not that old, definitely when in 2000 around we start seeing the merging cobots, right? The collaborate robots. And we have seen that trending of open a lot of doors for different applications in the world. And we started seeing big cobots, and now we have very small cobots, but they are able to create a small task, and do a lot of great things with that. Um, we have seen in the past 2 or 3 years the humanoids are being born. I know they are still in research, and they are still a lot to do and to figure it out how they are going to be helping. But I think that is definitely a new key milestone, right? That is going to be affecting the way we see and interact with robotics. And definitely AI and machine learning, right? I think that has been helping to accelerate, increasing very quickly the development of the robots and how they learn. Before it was taking forever, years to try to figure it out, sensors, make it to do a specific task. I think now with AI and machine learning, they do it quickly and they learn faster, and it's easier to collect the data and just to use it to keep increasing the effectiveness of the robots.
Correct. I think AI is playing a very big role in, evolving robotics, and with lot of machine learning algorithms coming through, lot of LLMs, lot of, robotic operating systems that are coming in. I think there's going to be a huge change in the landscape of robotics. And with that, we come to a point where will be discussing about, robotics as a service, how it works. So what do you think are the main advantages of implementing robotics as a service in industries? And with that, if you could, highlight a little bit about what exactly is a robotic as a service with one or the other example, if it's fine for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, first of all, robotics as a service, I think, has been born as a part of like, who can we start in some industries that probably they have never used robotics before, right? And also developing a robot, it can be very expensive, and buying a robot is also expensive, right?
Expensive.
So I think definitely again, I think robotics as a service is now for each company, right? But definitely it helps to manage the cost to make it a little more easier to have it, more easy to escalate, right? And it's a win for body industries, the one who are developing and the ones who are using it. And I'm gonna give you, for instance, an example: agriculture, right? There are uh, some process that are just happening during 2 months of the year. So buying a robot that you are not gonna use for 10 months doesn't make sense. Your
Mhm.
return of investment is gonna be sitting there. But what
Correct.
about if you have a robot that you can use for those 2 months of harvesting or whatever, right? So in that case, robotics as a service is giving you that advantage that you don't have to buy the robot, right, for the whole year or having it there for years, but you're going to have a robot for those 2 months. In the
Correct.
other hand, you are getting feedback, right? You are saying, I wish the robot can be faster, or the grip can be making this easier, or so on. So that goes back to the company who is developing the robot to make it a better version for the next season. So you are gonna also having a more better service iteration for the next year. So I think those kind of companies that sometimes they don't need to have the robots for the whole year, but still they need them. That is a one way to win with robotics as a service. And the other are for companies even in the manufacturing in the industry that again sometimes they have a production line that doesn't go the whole year, but they want to make it a little more effective, and they have never probably automate before or used any robotics, and they are kind of balancing, does this make sense or no,
Correct.
right? So we have, I have been working with other companies that we have implemented robotics as a service for those small manufacturing companies, and it's great for everybody because they can really test, oh, it's really being efficient, right? It's really giving me what I need. The good thing also, companies are no in charge of maintenance or changing parts or anything related to the robot. So the service is always like a whole package, right? Like, here is your robot working. If it doesn't work, we are in charge of that. So you just have to focus on what you know what to do, right? You don't have to be thinking about
Correct.
how to fix the
Hmm.
robot.
Correct, correct. So, since you mentioned agriculture, I think drones are playing very key role in that, in agriculture, spraying pesticides and, like, checking how the health of the crops is. I think that is one of the best example that we can have around for agricultural robotics as a service. And since it's some crops, as you said, are timely crops, they can be brought as a service, and then once the work is done, they can go back. So that's one of the, I think, really good example since you mentioned agriculture. So one thing that I wanted to ask you was like, what is one of the best example that from your point of view can be your favorite as well, is the successful application of robotics as a service in any industry, like the
Yeah,
one you like?
well, I like too many. Definitely, I will see two right now that I have seen more success. Again, agriculture is a big one because those work by season. A lot of them, right? Like, it's just a specific season for strawberries, just a specific season for tulips, and so on, right? And the other, hospitality. I feel that there is still a lot of things that hospital and hotels and so on are still trying to figure it out with labor shortage, but also at the same time they have to be improving the customer experience, right? They have to make things faster for the clients that they are serving. So adding robotics as a service for some specific of these areas, it really increase that experience. And also in hospitals, I have seen how they reduce a lot of the money they spend. Hospitals spend a lot of money on their operations, and definitely I have seen now how a few of them have been adding robotics as a service on specific areas. One of them, I had the opportunity to be working with disinfection the rooms. Wow, they were like, for having this room empty, we were taking between 4 to 6 hours because they have to use a lot of chemicals and people cleaning and disinfecting. And now the robot can do it in 15 minutes and really doing a disinfection, right? Like, they have to do testing and all that just to say it really disinfected, right? In order to implement it. But well, yeah, definitely there we see a big advantage of using robotics as a service.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing light on that again. And so now we come to AI. So we have already discussed a little bit about AI, but what role does AI play in enhancing robotics for industries now,
So
industrial use?
I would say definitely, I don't know. I imagine a lot of people have here that data, right, is gold, right, and definitely
Hmm.
it. So we are helping the robots with AI collecting that data, right? We are using that data to enhance how to do it better. Before it was very, again, a lot of manual, I would say, work or process to make sure that, or why the robot is stopping every 5 minutes, right? Or how the robot can do faster, how the robot can identify, for instance, again, with the strawberries or the apples, right? How AI
Hmm.
can be helping to identify the strawberry is ready to be picked up, right? Like you were saying with the drones, right? How can we identify the crops? AI, with all the data that we are collecting, is making the things being more efficient, and the risk of having an error is every time less and less because we are feeding that database.
Correct. Okay. So, with AI coming in, then we have, a lot of image processing data being collected and different robots are being. I think we are at a point where a lot of companies are trying to create humanoid robots. The one that I think they tried, and it was in Saudi or somewhere, they gave citizenship also. I'm not able to remember the name of that robot. In India also they tried one of the robot which was in used. I think I'm not sure DRDO or ISRO did it, but they did it. And a lot of companies like this are trying to create humanoid robots also. So how do you see the future of robotics in shaping industries, households in coming decade?
Well, definitely, I think it's going to increase a lot about the autonomous systems. I think it's still a lot of them are not 100% autonomous, right? They still need the human interaction or the
Correct.
human, way. But I think definitely it's going to be increasing that autonomous systems. And for that, that's going to be increasing the productivity as well for the industries.
Hmm.
Like you said, I was the other day talking with what university, I think they are in India, and they were telling me that they have this robot that identify when a student is coming into the building and is taking attendance, right? So with
Hmm.
AI, I telling like, oh, this is Jessica, let's put it on the attendance that she is
Correct.
inside, right? So I think those kind of ideas is cool, right? Instead of making a human taking attendance, right, teacher or something, you can create a lot of systems that can make things faster and easier, and that's what robots are. And definitely, the connected with the AI is going to make a lot of more productive environment in many industries.
Hmm. So one of the biggest challenge that comes in when you are trying to integrate such things with the traditional industry. So if there is a traditional industry and you want to do something like this, which makes life easier by adding robotics, that's where a lot of challenges comes in. So what are the main challenges that you feel people face during such kind of phase?
Well, definitely there are a few, and it depends of the integration. On my experience, um, I see that during the integration of a robot, it has a lot of stakeholders, right? You have the CEO who wants really have better technology in their company, and then you have a manager who is looking for KPIs and so on. But then you have the operators, the one who are going to be working with the robot, and a lot of that is the problems comes from the technical background, right? There are still a lot of people who has know a lot of technical skills, and then also the fear of what the robot is going to be doing really with my job. Am I going to lose my job? Right? And then sometimes they feel like it is too much to handle, because we have to understand that a lot of these operators, they just probably use their phone to chat or send a Facebook, but they don't really are good with technology, or they don't feel confident using technology. So I feel that it is still a lot of education how really robots are interacting with the operator. and how we really are helping the operator feel confident using the robot, but also adding more skills to that person, right? Like, oh, your job is more than just operating a robot, right? I feel that still we need to provide more value to those operators, and there are still a lot of things that we can develop in the workforce to keep increasing the use of robotics and not substituting people, right? We are gonna
Right.
help them to become something better.
Correct. It's like a human robot collaboration that is more important. We are going to come to that question, of course. So since we discussed about robotic integration, there's a huge section of businesses which are medium and small scale industries. Now, when you discussed about, robots can be costly, creating as well as buying them. Now, in this situation, how do you think small and medium sized businesses can be benefited from robotics as a service? So, like adapting robotics as a service rather than buying it or creating their own.
Oh yeah, I was just actually thinking in one, again thinking about my Roomba, right? My Roomba can help my house, right? But if I want to clean a small office, that probably is not gonna be enough. So there are a lot of robotics that helps with mopping,
Correct.
cleaning,
Hmm.
but it's doing a little of that. I mean, I can thinking about it some small tasks like that, and even again depends of what the business is, but I see that now you don't have to be dependent just in people, right? That there are like, I live in an area where it's so difficult to find somebody to help you to clean. So I, even for companies, right, or for my house, having a robot that is helping you with that benefits you, right? Because at the end you will need to do something. um, I also live in an area where we get more than 200 inches of snow per season. So, I have seen in Canada these big robotics companies that they do snow, that they remove the snow. So I feel that that definitely benefits a business because they can, you cannot have people parking in your parking lot if you have a lot of snow. So you really need
Correct.
to get things going. Um, so definitely there are a lot of potential ways to help small companies with robotics.
Companies. So, adapting like such kind of things can have a lot of common misconceptions, right? Because any new technology that comes, which is about to disrupt the market or maybe create some kind of fear in the minds of business owners, what kind of common misconceptions that you have seen about robotics in industries?
Well, the most common is like, oh, I'm not gonna need more personnel, right? Or people thinking they are taking my job, right? The misconception of like also the robot really can do everything on their own, and they are afraid of if the robot is gonna have their own mind one day and taking over the business. Which is not true. Again, I think the way right now robots are working definitely need a lot of human work in some way, right? You need somebody who is programming it, fixing it, and so
Correct.
on.
Hmm.
They cannot do things on their own, but is educating the people again, right? Like, okay, you have to have somebody here always, three shift, 8 hours, right? How many of them can produce this, right? Versus having a robot doing it, and instead having that people helping in this other task, right? Or doing this other thing. How many of the people you are able to really having doing this job? I feel, especially in constructions, I have seen robots that are doing high risk jobs, things that are putting on
Hmm.
risk a lot of people. And I can think about, again, as a Mexican, I know a lot of Mexicans who come here to work in those high risk jobs, right? They come to the United States
Hmm.
and immigrants, and because companies doesn't have to really pay for insurance and things like that, they are ways. So it's like, okay, you do it,
Correct.
right? A lot of people doesn't take that those people are risking their lives doing things that are very
Hmm.
hard. you have a robot and instead educate the people how to operate robot instead of doing the high risk job, that would be something better.
Correct, correct. So now we come to, of course, human robot collaboration. So, what is the importance of human robot collaboration in industries? As you were mentioning that, like rather than fearing for people that it might take our jobs or it might take over the whole industrial work, they should work, understand how to use it, and create a workflow where we are still having people around to operate and to make more work available with robots having in collaboration. So, what is the importance of human robot collaboration?
Definitely a lot. I see, and lately I have been actually looking into some research that universities are doing with that because I'm pretty sure they are so much better than me. And is a lot implies psychology, right? The what are the feelings, what are the fears, and if you ask common people about what they think about a robot or how they see a robot, they always think about all these movies that the robot is big and is something like is powerful, right? And again, something that is gonna can do things on their own. So especially people that is operating daily, sometimes they have those fears, right? And then I don't know if you have seen, but there were very few news that some accidents happened with the robot, and it was very easily for people to say the robot did this to the operator, right? And the truth, it was again not having the training how to operate a robot or what are the risks if you don't follow a protocol. So I feel that there is still a lot of ways to keep educating people. And again, definitely my experience, and this is why I love customer success in the robotics companies, is because you really need to have an onboarding plan that is not just thinking about the business level, like, oh, how much money we're going to do, but it's how we are going to be doing the onboarding process with the people who is going to be using robots for the first time, how they are going to be, how are we going to make sure that they are comfortable with it, because I have seen people quitting their jobs because they don't want to use it. They say, I don't want to use it, I don't feel safe, right? So how we make sure that that is not happening. And sometimes companies, the ones who buy the robot and the ones who are selling it, are expecting like, oh, we have a robot and tomorrow they are going to use it and everything is going to be beautiful. It's not. We need to, especially if it's the first time, we need to have a plan, and we need to understand that there are going to be these feelings of people saying, I don't feel safe using it, right? I remember
Correct.
having one operator that had a very old phone, right? And even to call me for asking me questions, he was having hard time. So imagine if he was having hard time, calling me. It was having hard time navigating in the iPad the app to move the robot.
Hmm.
So I have to be giving chunk of pieces of training, very little, like, okay, let's do the milestone that this person is turning on the robot. And that was like, this is gonna be your goal for the week. Just turn it on and off.
Correct.
Until that person was really comfortable and say, oh, I get it, right? I get now the use of this robot, making
Correct.
sure that we are training also in the risk if they are not using the robot correctly, right? Because then it's when this collaboration can make these troubles. And as like you say, any technology that is disrupting the market, we can think about. The other day I was having this conversation with a friend when 20, well, not 20, but probably I can think like probably 20 years ago, where nobody had a website, right? And I remember my brother has a marketing company and I was selling websites. And I remember people was asking me like, why I need a website? And that's no, I think it's insane. I have the yellow
Yeah,
pages. I don't need it, right?
we,
And I
we are
feel
good.
Yes. And yeah, I remember it was hard to sell a website.
Mm,
People would say, I don't
correct.
need it. Why I need it? I think it's the same right now with robots, right? We are disrupting a lot of markets, and robotics has been increasing a lot in the last 5 years. Every year we see new startups. They are trying to fix new problems. So we need to make sure that we are having a process to onboard each stakeholder, but mostly the ones who are being operating the robot. Then we don't have to forget about the ones who are going to be interacting every day with it.
Okay. So yeah, like as you mentioned that a lot of startups are coming up. One of the startup, I think it's a bit old, but still they are in in their product development. They are making it better and better every time. I'm trying to chase them also for a podcast related to that particular product and what is the concept in their mind. So they have created a robot which is going to take care of the farming part, but in a whole. So they are going to create a product which is going to put the seeds in the soil, then going around and watering it every once in a while. Then it is going to also go and identify the harmful crops which will damage the actual plant crops that we are planting, and it will remove them, and it'll keep on a track on the health of the. So it has this changing heads kind of system where it will change itself, that now it needs to water the plant, so it is going to take that head, and then it is going to keep on go on doing that. So that is one. It was really amazing to see that, but I think still they are in the development. So they said that okay, we are not right now in the state of having a talk with anyone, since we are still in the development, and once we product market our product properly, we'll have a talk. But I think that was one of the thing that was really awesome, that I felt really amazing, and I was like in dreams, okay, what they have done, how they have done it. That's long time ago. And then afterwards, since I have been working in IoT also, I realized okay, a lot of things are possible. We have to have a good knowledge of these things, and we can do a lot of things in robotics. And one of the favorite domain that I have is robotics, that is IoT as a whole, but robotics still amazes me in the ways it can. So now comes to a very controversial question, which people will be expecting in this podcast: is robotics and automation going to affect jobs in any kind of way?
I definitely don't see it that way, to be very honest. And I was 2 years ago. I was at FIRA, which is one of the biggest trade shows for robotics in agriculture in California. And I really enjoyed this conference because it was a lot of academia, business, right, and a lot of organizations and farmers. California was having this is having this problem that second generations doesn't want to work in the farms, right? So again, a lot of migrants come and here and are working on the farmers, but then the children say, I don't want to have my dad's job, right? I don't want to be picking
Hmm.
all the time. So instead of one of the things that University of California has been pushing is how can we train those second generations in using technology in the farms so they don't feel that they are the ones speaking manually, how they can operate machinery, right? And how they can become the next generation that for the first time are creating a product, right? That is solving a problem. So I think definitely that's the way I see it, right? As a humans, we are evolving, and we start seeing that people are doesn't want to do that job anymore, right? One of the things is my dad has a shoe factory for many years, and every year he was always having hard problem to find one specific kind of person because it was a lot of hand man job, right? And it was
Hmm.
every time there
Hmm.
was less and less people who knew how to do that. And why?
Correct.
Because again, a lot of new generations say that is too much work, right? Too much
Hmm.
work for what I get the money, or I having I want to aspire at doing something different. So I feel that the way I see robotics, I see that it's actually opening a new opportunities for new generations. Many years ago, when I was in college, even in Mexico, we didn't hear about robotics too much. It was something very like ooh, one company and that's it, right? But now
Mhm.
for me, I see it, every year new companies adding automation in their companies, new startups growing in Latin America, bringing robots, and a lot of farmers also using robotics in the farms in Latin America. So I see that we are bringing a new opportunities instead of taking away jobs. We are not taking away jobs. Oh well, robots are not taking jobs away. They are bringing opportunities to do something different. That's the way I see it, right?
So in only in case where people are not, as of now, what I feel based on what you're saying is that in sections where people are no more interested to work physically is the place where robot will be placed. Now to control that robot we'll be needing a person, that can be the place where this job is being shifted back. So instead of going there and actually working, what he'll be doing is the robot that is going to work there will be controlling that robot. That is the only change that can happen as of now. We are not sure about what will happen in 10 years, but as of now this is what can be the scenario.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay. So, since in any new technology, there's always a ethical concept, that ethical side, that what ethical considerations should be done. So, what do you think are the ethical considerations that should be done while deploying, robots in any kind of industries?
So, like you say, of any new technology, right? We need to make sure that we are protecting the work rights of the people, right? I see that
Correct.
I would say I still the biggest industry who is using robotics or automation are manufacturing companies, right? So how are we gonna be helping that they don't feel the rights are being violated, right? How we are gonna make sure that they don't feel that their jobs are gonna be substituted by a robot. And again, the third one, and one of the ones that I have seen, is how we're making sure we are giving the right training in terms of operation, maintenance, and any risk that could be, right? Like if it is a wrong operation, definitely they can have some risk, right? So having that training and making sure that they understand the operation of the robot is also preventing accidents or preventing any other bigger problems. Uh, and also, if they, I think also is if we are really gonna say, oh, their robot is gonna make instead of having two operators, having one operator, right? How can we make sure that we have a program for training to help them to grow into the company into something else? So
Hmm.
yeah, definitely like making sure that we are training the people, right, and making sure that they have this program of whole so they can keep growing, right? But like they are not just being the operators. And I remember we were implementing uh, automation in one of the companies I was working, and of course this was the first reaction of the operators, right? Like, oh, my job is gonna be cut off, right? So what we did is create a program of whoever wanted to enroll in the training program, how to give maintenance to the, I mean, of course it was tier one, to give maintenance to the machines we were implementing, and then how they can have a path of becoming those technical people in the company. And I think that was definitely, giving them opportunities to increase their salaries, right? Because of course now probably operators will know that they will be substituted, but we will definitely need less than that. We didn't take their jobs, but we instead giving them a path of what they can become, a quality assurance
Hmm.
tester, right? How they can be, a manager of different product lines. So we give them a
Hmm.
different program with different opportunities. And we also create a kind of like partnership with one community college where they can be taking a little more technical classes, so they can also have a path to have a better career. So I think that's the ethical way to implement something that in some way, yes, is replacing the job of humans, but not because humans are not valuable, right? It's because sometimes it's going to be easier to have a machine and it's going to be faster, but there are still things
Mm.
that needs to be done by the human. So who
Correct.
can bring that?
Correct. Yeah, I think one of the example that what you said can justify is like the pipes, underground pipes, which previously humans should have used to take risks and clean it out. Now they have created a lot of robots which are being controlled by the very same humans, and are cleaning without any risk of life or any loss of life. So that is one of the thing that we can give as an example for what you just said. And yeah, learning and training is the key, so they can we can, any companies who are going to plan to adopt any robots can train their guy, like manpower, on how to use it, and then they can also get trained in how to maintain the robots, so that in turn it will add up one more thing in their profile, and that would help them to earn, I think, more than what they're earning. So yeah, that was really a good thing that you mentioned in this scenario. So with sensors getting more and more advanced, I think there is a lot of advancement in robotics as well, because half, I think, most of the part that we have to deal with in any kind of robots is the data that we are consuming from the outside world and then taking decisions of any kind. So how do you think that advancements in sensor technology are contributing to industrial robots?
Well, I think like we have, I have said before, right? Data is kind of that gold, right? You are having all this
Mm,
data and is also helping companies to take better decisions, right? For instance, in the warehousing, right, you can see that the robot is taking like how many times is collecting a product from the shelf, right? And you can have
mm,
also this data connected to the MRP. So what is the product that is being must sell, right? What is how many times the robot goes in and out from this space, right? So how can you even improve that area? Do you need to increase the area of where you have this shelf, right? Because you have seen that it's increasing sales. So I think in general, all this data can help you to take better decisions, more informed decisions. If we can think before the robots in warehousing, you just have one person before coming in and out, right? And nobody was counting the steps or how many miles the person was walking, right? How can you make decision that that was the best place to have the product in that shelf? And I think, for instance, now with the robot, I see warehouses, right, that they can take that data and say, oh, this probably makes sense if we move the shelf to this area or we increase this section of our warehouse. Um, Again, in the agriculture, it could be the same, right? Like, oh, it seems like we need to increase the land or we need more water, to make more effective my harvesting or so on. So now with that data, there is a lot of things that is gonna be easier to figure it out and take decisions that are a little
mm.
more smarter for your business.
And from your point of view, which are the most emerging trends in the industrial robotics that you find more exciting?
Oh, wow, there are a lot. um, again, I have been working lately with a few, well, working and helping with a few plants in climatic robotics. And definitely, I see the imaging in that is helping a lot, right? Because we are understanding what are the changes, right? That we are seeing as a pattern that we can then help with robotics, right? How these robots are, some of them are just doing explorations. especially for instance in the water, which is kind of hard and expensive having humans doing the inspection all the time. But we have robots that is very easily to send under the water and take, like, um, if the water is being protected or no, if the animals in the water are being protected or no, if there is any changes that we need to worry, right? I can think that especially with the water problems, right? We can see hope that could be prevented or can be in some way helping delaying all these water problems. So I feel like that part of the images in robotics is helping us to understand a lot of things that before it was taking us a lot of time. So now you put all these images in a database and start getting patterns and trending and collecting the data and see, like, this is probably a problem, or and this is probably a solution.
Mm. And so, how do you see robotics evolving so since we are moving towards a revolution in robotics in industrial revolution, we can say 4.0 and all. But how do you see robotics evolving in that phase and in Internet of Things? Because Internet of Things is one of the things that is kind of a buzzword trend and in motion in a very good phase right now. Lot of companies, lot of cities are trying to implement Internet of Things with in the perspective of smart cities. A lot of, like, even in India, a lot of cities have been listed out, which are going to be transformed as part of smart city initiative by the government. So I think that robotics is moving towards a phase where it is going to get involved in a regular human life more and more, with IoT coming into picture. So how do you think robotics is playing a role in that phase?
Well, I think you just say it. We are gonna see it, right? Like
Hmm.
every day
But in a more
more.
elaborative way.
Yes, we are gonna see it. Like I was telling you, right? I have two robots for cleaning my first floor and my second
Hmm.
floor. Um, I'm thinking right now having one for mopping and the other I was looking at one that helps to clean the windows, right? So for me, I love to have a system in my house that I can say, at 9 in the morning, I want lights off, right? And I want to
Correct.
have my dishwasher running. So all those things are making our lives a little easier and faster, right? So the IoT and robotics are going to be definitely helping us to create routines that the daily tasks, right, are going to be kind of automated. Like, again, I say
Hmm.
in the morning I want my lights off, I want to start running the dishwasher, and I want to start running my Roombas, right? And I want also disconnect the cameras and so on. Is going to be very similar what we are going to start seeing in a lot of companies, and like you say, in the smart cities, how we can make things better and faster. I would say that is one benefit. The other disadvantage, and I can see it with my daughter, since she has been growing seeing this, is like they get frustrated when things doesn't work. So I feel that also people is gonna start getting more frustrated easily, and that's why I don't know if you have heard this, but I have heard like, oh, we need a robot for this. And people start thinking like, oh, robots are gonna fix all our problems, because we are start getting used to have things faster and easier. So robotics are
Correct.
gonna start playing more games in that sense.
I think reliability is one of the concerns still. We cannot say that we are fully able to rely on these things. There was one awesome ad. I'm not sure who has created it. I saw it as a part of funny video. So there's a guy who is having his house fully controlled on voice, and he goes out on a dentist appointment and then get his teeth removed, and now he's not able to speak because of that. And it's raining, and he's not able to open his door because he's not able to speak. so his voice is not getting detected by the robot. So it was a ad of something that like you don't have to just over, rely on this. There's another ways to open the control the house, something like that. I'm not exactly remembering. It's 2 3 years back. It was a funny, but I think that shows that too much dependency is also not good. But we are going to see this in future, that this is going to come in. Now it depends on us how we are going to use it. If we are going to use it in a way that it uses more time and we use that productively, then I think it's really useful. Because what you are planning to do, that same thing I am also planning to do, of creating a centralized system that will control the whole house, based on different aspects. That is where the main issue comes, that I have found while working. Being from an engineering background, it's always uh, something that we expect is that every platform should come in one place, and we should be able to control it from one panel. So that is where, and being lot of companies in different, following different platforms, different apps, it's too hard to combine everything. But I think that is really a good thing to explore. Yeah, I think what you said is really right. And there is going to be a point where people are going to expect too much out of these things, and that's not a good thing. But yeah, we hope that things will be fine. So we are at the end of the podcast, and this is one of the last question that I wanted to ask you is, what advice would you give to the companies considering to, integrate robotics as service in their operations?
I think definitely you need to have a clear idea of what you need, what you want, right? And again, I know always there are different people involved, right, in why they need to have a robotics. And I think the other is having, a lot of these robotics companies that offer this service, they offer you a pilot. So I would say try at least two different pilots and find out who you like the most, who is really understanding what you're looking for. Because also sometimes we want something, but in reality we don't know what we want. And if if the company really identifies how to help you, you will see the difference, right? You will see like, oh, I thought I wanted this, but in reality I wanted this, and this company really nailed it. uh, so try to use those pilots. Always evaluate, who offers you the better service, because definitely robotics as a service, at the end, the value is also the service that this company is going to provide you, right? How quickly they are going to answer your questions, how really they care about having the implementation and the boarding going. So that I would say having a clear expectations, but also testing what is outside.
Great, and thank you for the advice. So, for all the companies who expect an advice, here is an advice from Jessica. So, make sure you take a look at the companies who are providing the service, take a pilot, and then you can decide. And yeah, we are done. I think it was a awesome conversation that we had. But one thing I wanted to tell all my viewers is Jessica herself is a content creator, and she has her awesome podcast. So I am going to link all the links in the description. So make sure you check it out. If you're new to the channel, check out all the previous podcasts. And yeah, any last words, Jessica, before closing it?
Well, no, first of all, thank you again. I think this was amazing. And I think, like you say, we can continue talk and talk. If anybody has questions, I'm happy. You can reach out to my
Yes.
LinkedIn and always try to answer questions. And if you are thinking about robotics as a career, the thing I can tell you is that not always being an engineer is one way to be in robotics. There are many different
Okay.
roles that are needed right now in the robotics industry, from marketing to sales to operations. But having the love for that industry is really gonna give you an advantage of being part of that. So I
Hmm.
always get asked like, "Oh, I want to be in robotics, but I'm not technical." No, you don't need to be always technical, but there are different roles. But you definitely need to know the industry in some way, and you definitely need to love the industry because it's also have a lot of challenges.
Great. Thank you very much for your uh, advice and all the all the knowledge that you have shared. It was really great having you on the show, and I expect that we'll have another podcast very soon, sometime in future, with another topic for sure. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Keep innovating. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah.